Welcome back to Flies on the Ball. In today's episode, we are a fly down as Jack, our resident Liverpool fan, is unable to join us. Too busy enjoying the life of luxury. But yeah, plenty to talk about, I guess. Most prominently would be Chelsea and their attempt to
enjoy the life of luxury.
Enjoy the life of luxury with no Middlesbrough fans at their FA Cup game. Yeah. PR own goal, someone called it.
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea preaching about sporting integrity is so ironic. Like, it's unbelievable. Not only did they try to join a Super League, which they were like, oh yeah, well, they were sort of reluctant followers because they didn't want to get left behind. No, sod that. You still tried to join the Super League. No, worse, because you knew it was a bad idea in the first place. You've been pumped full of Russian money for years, and it's corrupt. And yeah, there's other clubs that are full of corrupt money. But that doesn't mean that you're right because other clubs are doing it as well. It just means that multiple clubs are wrong.
And in many ways, it began with Chelsea, really. Way back in 2003, which is now nearly 20 years ago. It started that whole trend, if anything.
And that wasn't without its critics at the time. Some people talk about it now as if the new Führer, as if the Führer now is just because of what's going on now. And we never had a problem with it before, which is just not true.
I mean, it's introducing not only corrupt money, but also buying the league, basically. I mean, how many trophies have they won? And they've not done it out of a self-sustaining model. They've done it by buying everything using loans from their director. Loans which apparently they won't have to pay back.
Yeah. That in and of itself, there's something really sketchy about that, I think. The fact they get basically a £1.5 billion loan just written off. That's basically free money. Free money, essentially. I don't know, does financial fair play factor into that at all? No?
I don't know. If nothing happens with it, then it shows a fundamental issue with the financial fair play system. I mean, Everton are looking at quite a lot of trouble at the minute because they made so much in losses over the last few years.
Yeah.
But Chelsea have clearly made 1.5 billion in losses over the last decade or so. That's a huge amount of money. And the amount that it's not like it's all happened just over the last. I mean, it has happened over the last 20 years, but also like they spent 200 million, not in the last transfer window, in the one before.
Yeah. In the midst of COVID, no less.
Was that after the embargo? Was that the season after?
Yeah, this was a transfer window after their embargo.
And now, like in the midst of all this, they've decided that the problems that their club is incurring that weight ought to be bared by other clubs as well now. So Middlesbrough FC is not allowed to have their fans in the FA Cup quarter-final, which is, I mean, you can read so much into that because, of course, for Chelsea, one of the elite, one of the top six clubs, FA Cup sixth round appearance, that's just a regular occurrence, really. But for Middlesbrough, that's not a regular occurrence at all. As a championship side, this is incredible to get to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And with that said, I have got the statement here in case you want me to read it out.
Please go ahead. Is this the middle?
It's a nice short statement, so it's one that can be read out quite quickly. We are aware of Chelsea's request to have Saturday's Emirates FA Cup sixth round tie played behind closed doors and find their suggestion both bizarre and without any merit whatsoever. All concerned are well aware of the reasons Chelsea have been sanctioned and that this has nothing to do with Middlesbrough Football Club. To suggest as a result that MSC and our fans should be penalised is not only grossly unfair, but without any foundation. Given the reasons for these sanctions, for Chelsea to seek to invoke sporting integrity as reason for the game being played behind closed doors is ironic in the extreme. We currently await formal notification from the FA of the next steps, but rest assured, Middlesbrough Football Club will resist Chelsea's actions in the strongest terms.
Yeah, don't mince their words.
The goal of Chelsea to say that another club should be punished because of their own failings, and sure, you can say it's actually the Premier League's fault because they allowed this owner from the start, knowing where this money's coming from, basically, right? So sure, the Premier League bears some level of responsibility for that.
No questions asked at the time.
Yeah, it's still Chelsea Football Club. Like it's a business. they're already being given more freedom than anyone else would be in that situation. Like, they've been given a special license to continue operating, where the standard under these sanctions would be just complete termination of everything.
Yeah, I saw I saw an announcement recently that they're going to play all their Champions League games behind closed doors, assuming they make it to the next round. Of course, they're playing Lille soon, as of this recording. But so they're going to play all their games behind closed doors. I mean, the mere fact that they're even able to play those games at all, the mere fact that they're even able to continue their footballing operations, like in any capacity at all, they're a frozen asset at this point.
Yeah, like Chelsea fans are complaining, or some Chelsea fans are complaining online about how this is unfair. It's targeted against them, and it's like, no, you're being given so much special treatment. Understand the position you're in. Like, it sucks from a fan's perspective. But this is why a lot of the things in like the fan led review need to come to light. Things like fan ownership or fan control, so that fans can, for instance, have a bit of control over their club and can oust owners like this or stop them coming in the first place, so that this sort of stuff doesn't happen. It's not an attack on Chelsea. They're being specifically helped out by the government in the circumstances that they're in.
I think it is largely to do with the state of Qatar, and having Qatar and Saudi Arabia involved in the Premier League going pretty much untouched so far. I can see why Chelsea fans would be aggrieved in that sense.
But, and it's horrible. Like it. I think we're probably all in agreement that Newcastle's owners shouldn't have been allowed to buy Newcastle. Right? Again, another failing of the Premier League. But if Newcastle's owners were sanctioned by the UK government, Newcastle probably wouldn't have even got the special license. They'd have just been disregarded. Oh, you know, it's a casualty of this sort of impact. And also, like, there are differences. Like, we have a very self-centric view of the world, and Ukraine is in Europe. It's a European country that is being attacked. That's not something that happens very often. So, for the government to take sanctions against someone attacking a European nation is probably politically easier for them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because at the minute, it is the much easier thing to do. Like, if there was a lot of attention being drawn to the fact that Saudi Arabia continues to blockade Yemen and the ongoing humanitarian crisis there, then probably sanctions would be imposed against Newcastle's newfound sugar daddies or whatever.
Yeah, and then this is the thing. Like, this is where the government should step in with football and say, you need to have these restrictions on owners, or you need to have what Germany have with 50+1 fan ownership or whatever. Because the way it is, this is going to happen, and it's going to happen again. Like, maybe not for another couple decades, but at some point, if it carries on like this, like it is, it's going to happen again at some stage.
Yeah, because I mean, I saw like Chelsea fans on Twitter and like other social media platforms just like crying out for for a new owner to buy them. And I just think, just what a pathetic state of affairs we're in. Just what a pathetic state of affairs where a football club, has to be bought out by some. Okay, so we lose this set of scummy billionaires or whatever. Now let's get a new one in quick. It's just like, no, it shouldn't. Like, that's just not the way to run. It's not really the way to run anything that just like passes ownership regularly between all these different sets of people with first of all dodgy money, like money that's often unexplained, and it's also, they'll also have like very big ideas about what they want to do with the club and everything. So they'll just like completely change things. I mean, like, the instance of like Vincent Tan at Cardiff City wanting to change the colour to red, or what's his name? The guy who was at Hull, who wanted to change the name to Hull Tigers. Yeah, it's just not. It's not the way to run a football club. It's not the way to run a football club. The only people who I think, even if it's not practically better than was it ownership by very rich interest or whatever, it's fan ownership, because fan ownership ultimately it's consistent, and there will be a continuing interest in ensuring that the best interests of the club are upheld, and it's not just going to be this pet project of some rich fuck.
And it's not like we don't have the mechanism for it, right? Like, no. I think clubs have supporters trusts, whose job is to communicate with the club and everything. like that could be a pathway into having the fans own the club. It's a supporters trust. The supporters trust has a stake in the club, and then they therefore have a say in the decisions, so that these things don't happen. Like it's ridiculous, and it's a sorry state of affairs, and it's all to do with the money in football, and the ability to hide your money in football. In the case of, I think, Abramovich.
Yeah, because also personally, I think it just brings the top level of football into disrepute as well. Like, it makes me actually kind of annoyed about supporting Palace, which is just ridiculous. It's because of how, like, Palace being a part of the Premier League continues to be involved with all of this, continues to benefit from all of this, and even that just makes me a bit sort of uneasy and like wishing I went and supported non-league football instead or something. But no, unfortunate state of affairs.
The Premier League's supposed to be the best league in the world, the most entertaining league in the world, but it's not a good look when you're having to sanction the owners of the clubs, and stuff like this is able to happen because of the lack of transparency, guidelines, and really fan, like, football first mentality.
Yeah, I also think it sheds a further light on the issue of sports washing, actually, the more general issue of sports washing, because you always wonder, like, why did Abramovich buy Chelsea in the first place? And I think the most obvious reason is because it puts him out there, it makes him a more public figure, and it means that it just protects his wealth a bit more. Because now, of course, what's happened is, I think one of the reasons why they took so long to sanction him, and they were probably trying to think about how to sanction him without necessarily sanctioning Chelsea, so ensuring that Chelsea can continue to play, because they knew that they were going to incur the wrath of a bunch of sycophantic Chelsea fans who were all angry at the fact that they were going after Daddy Abramovich. And that's exactly what Abramovich achieved. He achieved having this massive fan base for him, not just for Chelsea, but for him as well. And it's part of laundering. Yeah, it's part of laundering his reputation, because he knows that where his wealth has come from is dubious at best. And so one way to launder your reputation is to put yourself in a public position like that. And why not a football club where you can amass yourself a group of sycophantic idiots all chanting your name during silence for victims of the war in Ukraine?
I mean, it's buying loyalty, isn't it? Really, I mean, they buy a club with an already established fan base, like Chelsea. It was a big name before. It's not like they just appeared. They were still a big name.
Because now it's happening with other clubs as well. Because for Newcastle United, for instance, it's really quite actually disheartening to see the number of Newcastle fans there are who continue to defend their ownership. But they will continue to cite the fact that they apparently passed the fit and proper test for owners, and also continue to raise the fact that other clubs have owners with skeletons in the closet, so that makes it all right then. Just at the whiff of silverware turns a football fan's moral compass, or supposed moral compass, on its head, judging by this. And it's no different with Chelsea in the minute in how they're defending Abramovich.
There's so much whataboutism with regards to it from Chelsea fans with regards to Abramovich. Now they're saying, well, what about Newcastle? Their owners are good. And when Newcastle got taken over, it was, well, Abramovich is there. It's like this whataboutism is unhelpful and counterproductive.
It's tied in to people's identities, so it's hard to accept. It's hard to support something if you accept that it doesn't align with your ethics or whatever. So there's a lot of varying.
So just change your ethics.
We should be pushing for better in all the clubs. Like it's just these are the most extreme examples of bad, and so
because I mean. I even have problems with Palace's ownership at times. Like, apparently one of the American investors donated significant amounts of money to the Trump campaign. But I'm afraid that doesn't compare to the sovereign wealth fund of a bloodthirsty, oppressive oil state. It just doesn't bloody compare. Or the ally of a warmonger, a close ally of a warmonger. It doesn't bloody compare.
Should we move on to talking about the Premier League and where the table sits at now after the Palace held Man City to a 0-0 draw?
And I lost 26 points on the bench on my fantasy football team as a result.
So you're going to say £26?
I lost 26 quid. I might as well have lost 26 quid. It certainly felt.
I put it all on Man City winning.
That's what I'm saying, James.
That's
That's why you pick. That's why you get to enjoy the points taken by your team, and that mitigates the huge loss, the huge points you've got on the bench. It mitigates that pain. I like to play myself against myself. I like to play with myself.
But yeah, nil draw, which puts Man City 4 points above Liverpool, but Liverpool have one game in hand.
Yeah, against.
And they're still to play Man City. So really, it all hinges on that Man City Liverpool.
It's very much building up to that game, isn't it?
Yeah, which is happening. Is that in April?
Yes.
So that's late on in the season. So if things are still as close, as tight, then that will be probably the defining game. Which is it's a really fun circumstance to have. Like, it puts so much more stake into that game. If Man City had already won the title, if they were still 12 points ahead at that point, it'd be like, okay.
It makes the Premier League a hell of a lot more interesting.
It does, yeah.
Because it ensures that we don't have just this one team running away with it, like some other leagues.
Oh, that's nice. Actually, it's on a Super Sunday, and it succeeds. Perhaps a clash of even greater giants, Norwich and Burnley.
Whoa!
Oh, at the same time. Now that again,
that's 2 hours. Like, you can follow straight from the bottom of the table
Right.
clash and go straight to the top of the table.
I mean, even that's going to be
that's again.
There's going to be a bit
Yeah.
of a Titanic clash, that one.
I mean, to be fair, at that point, you would expect, at the current rate of I don't want to jinx anything down at the bottom of the table, but by that point, you'd expect, let's just say, at least one team to have already been confirmed for relegation, right? By
Probably,
April.
yeah.
Of course, things might stay tight because they are still tight at the bottom. Yeah, I mean, like, Norwich lost this weekend. Leeds won, which pulls them slightly further away, but with the caveat that Everton and Burnley both have games in hand over them, to the point where if they both won all their games in hand, Leeds would be below them. But at the rate of gaining points, both those teams, it's unlikely that will happen. So Leeds are 4 points above Everton now.
It's hard to look at. Like, I sort of notice it when I'm considering unplayed fixtures for top teams as opposed to bottom teams. When I look at our games in hand, for example, it's about looking at where you, there's almost a, if we win all our games, we'll get to this amount of points. But I'm looking at Burnley, and I'm finding myself assuming that they're going to win their games in hand, which is probably not as likely. And like Norwich as well. Norwich being 5 points off, 5 points off Watford, with the same amount of games played.
Well, 5 points off Everton.
And Everton,
Like,
yeah.
because that's where they're aiming for, right? 17th, I guess, is where you're aiming if you're in that zone, not 18th.
Yes. They look they're very adrift, and I'm thinking about the points they could get, about the wins they could get when it's probably less likely that they go on a random winning streak. Like, it's strange to think about.
I think at this point it would be quite surprising to see Norwich survive.
Yeah.
It would be.
Yeah. Sorry, Norwich.
I think them and Brighton have the worst form over the last 5 games.
Yeah.
Probably, I don't know if it extends further than that, but certainly in the last 5, they're the only 2 teams that have lost every single one of the last 5.
I mean, Norwich have had the worst form over the whole season. So.
Well, I mean, where'd you get that information, James?
20 losses out of 29 games, the fewest goals scored, most goals conceded.
Difference.
Actually, no, not most goals conceded. That goes to Leeds.
Yeah, but in Leeds' defence, or lack of a defence, I guess, Leeds have scored a lot more goals than Norwich. Like, their goal difference is better despite conceding more.
They haven't even. They have scored the most of the bottom 5, but it's about. Okay, they've scored more than Brighton, more than Wolves.
This is without our main striker. Patrick Bamford's first start was on Saturday, and that was his first start since September. Like, we've been pretty much the entire season without Patrick Bamford, who is our main striker. We do not score. I mean, he scored 17 goals last season and assisted more. Well, not more than 17, but assisted more on top of that 17. So he was involved in a lot of our goals. To suddenly lose that is a huge loss.
And that's without future Leeds legend Haaland as well. Look how
Yeah.
you've done without him.
Yeah, I know. We haven't got future.
Imagine
Leeds
when you get him next
legend
season.
Haaland. Hey, I'd be more than happy if he doesn't care about money. He can come to Leeds. He knows the manager. He's worked with the manager at Salzburg. So why not?
And he wants to win the Premier League with Leeds. That's
he does want to.
an
He did
actual
say
quote
that.
of
Yeah.
his.
Yep. It is. It is an actual quote. And he went and took Dallas's shirt last year at the qualifiers or something. So you know.
Oh, was that when
just-
Norway played Northern Ireland or something?
Yeah. So obviously Haaland he's destined for Leeds. No, but seriously, I think Haaland is most likely to end up at Man City, right? I mean, I know he's got the family connection with Leeds, but he also has the family connection with Man City, and they can afford him.
I do remember this picture going around of him, like a younger version of him in a Man City shirt. So yeah, I guess there is that connection as well then.
Yeah, yeah, I think he likes both teams, but he was born in Leeds, which
Yeah.
is cool. He could have played for England.
With Man City now just having dropped points against Palace, and Liverpool now they just need to beat Arsenal because they in that game against Brighton that was actually a really tough game for them. That there was one moment in particular though I thought I ought to bring up at some point in that game where that probably should have been an obvious red card, and it was that moment against
Yes.
Luis Diaz where. Was it Sanchez, the goalkeeper, basically pulled a wrestling move on him, essentially. But I didn't really want to bring up the debate about the quality of refereeing and VAR again. So I'll maybe move on from that one.
Having watched just the Arsenal game, I can say that VAR has a special place in my heart as of the weekend.
I suppose the only thing I wanted to bring up before the Liverpool game, really, because with that one, it was a tough game and everything, and it still seemed like a performance of maybe a Champions worthy team. I still think with the Palace game though, the Palace Man City game, despite the fact that Man City didn't score, they still had a ridiculous number of chances. They still looked incredibly ruthless. I still think they'll win. I still think they'll go on to win the title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Based on that performance.
I guess it does. I guess it does depend on the game versus Liverpool. It could just depend on who's having a better day that day, right?
Yeah, ultimately.
But they are very. Either could definitely take it really. So very interesting how it's hotting up.
Like I can see it. I can definitely see it going down to the final day. But to be, I still think that Man City probably will pull ahead and win.
You know who probably won't win the title?
Chelsea.
11 points off of Man City at the minute with just one game in hand. So if they win their game in hand, then that's what?
It's maybe a very outside
8
chance.
8 points in 10 games against well, they've got to hope like both Liverpool and Man City would drop off, right? Because they're 11 points behind Man City. After tonight, they could be 10 points behind Liverpool, or they could be 7 points still behind Liverpool, or 8 points behind Liverpool, depending on how tonight's game goes. This is being recorded on the Wednesday, just before the Liverpool-Arsenal game.
Yes, and right at the start of the Brighton-Tottenham game.
Yeah.
Which has no bearing on the league whatsoever.
No, it doesn't, because it doesn't look like Tottenham are going to get... certainly not Champions League spots, I don't think. I know they're only 6 points off of Arsenal, but...
No, we can't tempt... Don't tempt fate. So.
Well, they're more inconsistent. I mean, you just... Yeah.
They do seem to be... Like, it seems to be a running joke now that based on the result on any given day, they can guess. Or they already know what it's going to be next week. If you lose, it's going to be a win next week. If you win, you're going to lose next week. Sort of thing.
Yeah, So they are quite inconsistent, and I think to get a Champions League spot, one thing you need is consistency, and I think that is why Arsenal will get the Champions League spot.
Don't even say it. Sorry, it's just I know. I was going to say I'm optimistic. That's just a flat out lie.
Okay, well, it would take like
too positive.
In recent form at least, Arsenal are the more consistent team out of all those vying for a Champions League
Which is
spot.
just unfathomable. Well, it's not unfathomable. It's just it's still kind of a bit alien, a little bit new, being the sort of consistency we found, and it's not like that. What was it? That 22 game streak that Emery had early on in his tenure. I think Mustafi didn't lose for his first 20 odd games.
Wow.
There was periods. There was like an early period of just smashing out results quite well, but the performances didn't really say the same thing. But this time we actually look. No, I don't want to say good. It wasn't last season. One of the last, like either 2 or 3 seasons ago, we were very well positioned for top 4, but we ended up losing to teams. We lost to Brighton. I think we might have lost to Palace as well, and just completely blew it, threw it all away on games that we should have won. And that's still there's still that fear, little bit of fear that it could happen, but I think that's residual. It's residual fear, because when I look at the team and how we pass out and back, and just the confidence that we seem to have in possession, it's a world apart from, say, this a clip I saw earlier today that someone put up of it must have been one of these on this day sort of things, but it was one of Czech's. It might have been Petr Cech's first game for us, and he tried. We were trying playing out from the back, and he took a pass back from Socrates and promptly just curled it past his own post for a corner. And we're just so far removed from that kind of chaos at the back, and it's beautiful. So there is a lot of reason for Arsenal fans to be optimistic.
Man United are a funny one because they don't lose a lot, but they barely ever. They've lost twice under Rangnick, I think, something like that, or in the league anyway.
Maybe, yeah.
But they never win convincingly, and they seem very inconsistent on the pitch. West Ham, I don't think have a chance of getting Champions League football this season.
I think it'd be a bit unlikely, to see West Ham get in the Champions League.
They've still got
Europa League, possibly.
If Bowen's out still, I'm not sure.
I think he is out still.
Yeah, he's not available on my FPL.
That's how I know.
Yeah, who have they got? I'm just wondering if they've got Tottenham soon, and I think if they lose,
yeah, they'll go below Tottenham. That's quite as well. So there's a fight for 4th spot and there's a fight for 6th spot really between like West Ham, Wolves, and Tottenham. I don't think Aston Villa are going to reach the European spots. I think they'll get a top half finish. Maybe, but I don't think they'll reach the European spots because they're 9 points behind Tottenham, who are 1 position above them, and Tottenham are only 8th.
Oh, Villa have 9 points behind Tottenham.
Yeah.
If Tottenham lose today.
Did we all predict a top half finish for Leicester? Because that looks quite unlikely at the minute.
We all predicted the same. We all predicted Leicester 5th, Tottenham 6th.
Oh dear.
Or the other way around, maybe Tottenham 5th. Either way.
Meanwhile, Leicester aren't doing so great. Yeah, they're
behind Palace. Good God.
I mean, they've not even reached 40 points yet. Jeez. Mind you, most teams haven't.
They have got a few games in hand, but even so, their form doesn't necessarily suggest that, they'll just win all those games.
Isn't Vardy out again now as well?
Yeah, Vardy's out. Yes. They've still got a number of defenders out, I believe, still. I checked, actually, on Fantasy Football. The most number of points that any of their defenders have got is Soyuncu with something like 51. Which is really not good.
Yeah, I mean they're on the same points as Brighton. Brighton have lost the last 5 games in a row.
Brighton probably won't be dragged into a relegation scrap, I don't think.
No, I mean it's an outside possibility, but I mean even if they lose every single one of their games from here to the end of the season, like
I mean that would be pretty amazing. If that did happen,
it would be. But like, what are the chances that the bottom 3, the teams that ultimately will become the bottom 3 will all get 33 points?
Yeah, there's a thing that there are just 2 worse teams for Brighton to go down at this point. Same with a lot of the teams around that area, including Newcastle, of course.
Yeah, well, Newcastle, I think, are not a bad team anymore.
No.
This side of the new year, they've certainly been a much better team. They've barely conceded, right? I mean, even against Chelsea, who I know they have issues at the moment, but they're not.
That was only one goal, though,
It
against
can
Chelsea.
influence the pit. It can influence what happens on the pitch, but it's not like on the pitch issues, right? So yeah, I mean, even against Chelsea, they held them to 0-0, and arguably that they held them to it was just 1-0, and it was a late goal, but and arguably Havertz shouldn't have been on the pitch. I don't think it would have been a red card.
The goal was amazing. I'm sorry. I don't know if we don't have to talk about all the good goals scored, but
It was.
I've seen Giroud pull the ball down in a similar way. That's like there's not a lot of players who can take a ball in their stride like that, and
especially at that moment of the game as well, like in that very clutch moment of the game.
The other incident in that game is Newcastle possibly should have had a penalty, which I think is a much. I think it's clearer to say Newcastle should have had a penalty than it is to say Chelsea should have had a red card. I don't think Chelsea really should have had a red card, so that was probably the right decision in my opinion. But Newcastle probably should have had a penalty. His shirt was being pulled, and it was I don't know. I don't know if you saw that.
no. Moving on.
Moving on then, yeah. So Newcastle probably unlucky to get something from the game against Chelsea, which just shows how far they've come, really. I guess, considering they were deep in the relegation zone at the just a few months ago.
I think I keep looking at Brentford, thinking their last two games, how important those last two games were against Burnley and Norwich, and to come out with 6 points. They must be quite pleased.
Beat the teams in the relegation zone, and you're generally safe, right?
Yeah. Not only
you should pick up enough points elsewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was kind of confused. I was like, maybe it'd be more morale boosting to win against teams above you, because they're tougher teams to beat. But you're not taking
it's the
points.
Points differential.
You're not taking them off the teams beneath. Yeah.
So it's vital. To win those games, and they did. They beat Burnley, which leaves Burnley. Like, I mean, if Burnley had won, they would have gone above Everton. No, they wouldn't. Yeah, they would. They would have gone above Everton, and instead Brentford won, and obviously, it puts Brentford much higher up.
Was it Tony getting 5 goals across both games? Like, you're not taking me back to the Championship. You're not taking me back there.
I won't return. I won't. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but I think generally speaking, beating the teams below you is enough to stay up, unless the teams below you are just 19th and 20th. But yeah, so I guess we'll see how that goes. Everton lost against Wolves.
Yeah.
I know it's like they got a red card in that game.
Or John Joe Kenny later on.
They only lost 1-0, I guess would be a positive. But Wolves don't really score all that many goals.
No.
And Cody definitely don't score many
Of all
goals.
players to concede a goal to as well, the guy who grew up as a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like it's tricky. So they're now on the same points as Watford. They're only outside of the relegation zone on goal difference.
Oh dear. They did go down to the relegation zone at one point. I remember seeing that. During one of the games, yeah. I forget in what fashion, but it did happen.
Yeah.
Who have they got? Coming?
Watford
Newcastle.
obviously won. They've got Newcastle. Oh yeah, they've got Newcastle next. We said a few weeks ago that could be a pivotal game, right? I don't think it'll be enough to drag Newcastle back into the relegation fight.
No.
One way or the other. But it could go a long way to helping Everton get out. There'd be, well, I say a long way. If they beat Newcastle, but Watford beat whoever Watford are playing next, then they're still tied on points.
They've got tough games. Everton.
They do. They have, I think, the worst run out of the bottom 5 statistically speaking. They've got like West Ham, Liverpool. They've got to play Leicester twice. I know that.
They got West Ham away, Burnley away, Man U and Leicester at home. Liverpool away, Chelsea at home, Leicester away, Arsenal away. A few nice ones scattered in there, but Jesus.
It's going to be a tough run. There's a lot of people that say, "No, they're too big. Their players are too good to go down," and stuff like that. It's like,
yeah, that's the same as the Man U. Like, it's Man U.
yeah,
It's Everton.
they're too big not to be in the Champions League. No, they're not. It's about sporting merit, and frankly, Man U are shocking. Like, as in, they're inconsistent. They're all over the place, and they haven't earned a Champions League space, and so they probably won't get into the Champions League. They don't have an automatic right to it just because of their name, which is why the Champions League changes are so damaging to the sport. But that's we've talked about that before, I think. But it's the same with Everton. Like they're not too big to go down. They are in trouble, and they've got games in hand, but they're not. Games in hand aren't guaranteed, right?
No.
I mean, they say having points on the board is better than having games in hand.
I mean, like, the next game is against Newcastle, who are in very good form. And then game after that, that's when I get the fixtures up quickly.
West Ham, I think.
They've got blank. I forget that you don't call it a blank game in actual football. But
they've got an FA Cup tie against Crystal Palace. I forgot about that one.
Well, they'll probably win that because they've been doing well in the FA Cup, haven't they? They've not. I think that, other than Leeds, have those been his only victories, Frank's, at Everton?
I don't think Everton would mind. Like, I don't think Everton fans would mind if they lost that one because they've kind of got another thing to worry about.
I don't know. You said this. You could have said the same for Wigan.
I'm just hoping that that's the thinking, so that they lose. But I'm not biased at all or anything.
They're playing Newcastle, then West Ham, Burnley, Everton versus Burnley. That'll be a key game.
That will be.
So that'll be one to watch out for on the 6th of April.
They have to play Liverpool at one point.
Mm-hmm. Oh. They've got to play most of the top 8, I think.
Yeah. Well, I misread it. I thought it said Everton versus Everton there.
We talked about Burnley's loss to Brentford, but Burnley got a red card in that as well, right towards the end of the game. Very unnecessary. And with Ben Mee out, it was one of the defenders. It was for stopping a goal-scoring opportunity or something. Yeah, they gave away a penalty. He fouled him in the
Collins.
Area at the end.
Oh, yeah. Nathan Collins.
And,
everybody knows that.
Yeah, with Ben Mee out as well, it's not ideal for Burnley.
I'm gonna say, good to see Ericsson back in the assists and stuff. Getting all in there.
He's been called up for the Denmark national squad now, hasn't he?
Yes.
For the first time since the issue in the Euros. Yeah. Is that all the games? Leeds obviously beat Norwich with a last-minute winner after a last-minute conceding.
Did we do?
So
did we need
ups
to do,
and downs.
Did we need to do Man? We didn't need to do Man U Spurs. That was just kind of funny. Just an interesting, not for the top. Well, I don't know. Interesting for top 4. Interesting for Ronaldo.
Anything else that happened this week we should talk about in football?
Probably plenty of things, but thank you for listening to this week's episode of Flies on the Ball.
Still hate Chelsea.